Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a board game spotlight review for a game that was sent to me by Moshe Glueck and Benny Goldstein, and that game is Zaberias. Now this is a game that's an educational tactical combat game, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how it plays and tell you the things I enjoyed about the game, tell you the things I didn't enjoy about the game, kind of some pros and cons, so you can decide if this game might be one that you would be interested in picking up for you and your family. Before I get into the game, I just want to give a quick shout out to BGE's Tabletop Games and More store. It's in West Hills, California. Dustin Stotts runs the store, and games like Zaberias and other games that are made for children are the kinds of things that they like to carry in their store. They're really hugely into helping their community, providing opportunities for kids to come in and learn about role-playing games and Magic and other board games. So it felt like this was a great time to give a shout out for that store that matches this kind of a game. Now, the game that I showed you here is just a portion of it. This is Zaberias, and you can see it's just a thin cardboard piece. It's got some dice kind of embedded into it. It's one of the more unique kinds of marketing and packaging that I've seen before. This is the humans, and there's also the guardians here. And then in addition to the guardians and humans, we also have the orcs. And then in addition to the orcs, there's also the undead. And so those are the four factions that currently exist in this version of Zaberias. I'm going to go to their website and also a quick look at the rule book to show you a little bit more about that. Then we'll open this up and show you a bit about gameplay. All right, so here is the website, and I'm going to put a link down below. This is where you may want to go to learn more about the game even than what I share, and also to find out how you can order this game if you're interested. You can see that they're declaring that this is an educational game by design. They've been working on this game for 15 years and trying to perfect it. I think it came out as a produced game in 2014, and then they're talking about future enhancements and maybe even expansions, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Teaches counting, enhances reading, strategic thinking, and builds social schools is what they're saying here on their site. And I found that that's true. You are going to be helping children to learn in all of these areas. I would say that they will have to have some gaming background and be able to do some of these things already. I think it might be a stretch to try to bring in like a 5- or 6-year-old for most kids, unless they've had a lot of gaming under their belt. But you can see the art is really pretty, and you can see a little bit here about where you might link to buy the game. The website is really very thorough with lots of pictures, lots of explanations, lots of examples. The four tribes, as I mentioned, are the undead, humans, guardians, and orcs. And it gives you a little bit of an interesting background about them and talking about the land of Zaberias. There's also some different testimonial videos that you can watch if you're curious beyond the one that I'm producing and others that are already on YouTube. You can download the rulebook, which I'll show you just a little bit of in a minute. And then his son, Amitai Goldstein, Benny's son, has put together lots of videos, and they also have a bunch of Q&A videos. And so lots of resources here for you on the website. So if you're curious, check out this site linked below. Read all you want, watch all the videos you want. You can see again, here is how they're saying you are building these skills within the game of Zaberias. It's got a Q&A section, like are there more tribes, how long is a battle, players 2 to 4, ages 6 and up. Again, I think 6 is probably a little young to really, they could learn the basic premise of the game, but I think being strategic, probably for most kids, need to be a little bit older than that. And then you can sign up to get updates here. It talks a little bit about the design of the tokens, which I'll show you here for the different characters. Explains a little bit about how you'll be fighting, and then there's some other shop items you could pick up in addition to the game if you're interested. Now this is something I wanted to highlight on the website. The great oracle of Zaberias foretold that in the near future, leaders of the land would be able to upgrade their fighters into mighty 3D miniatures, and it's up to you to stay informed by signing up for the Zaberias newsletter. So you can see, you'll see some of these characters as I start to reveal some of them in the game, and apparently they're hoping to create some 3D miniatures to use in gameplay, which I think would be really neat. And then I also, from Benny, have heard that they're hoping to eventually add some more factions as well, in addition to the ones that are already there. You can also link to their social media. You can check out their media kits. So quite a bit of information here, lots and lots of pictures on their website. You can get to see a little bit about who these creators are and why they're doing what they're doing and why they've designed this game and why they've stuck with it for so many years. In addition to this, like I said, there is a link to the rulebook, and I'm not going to go through the whole rulebook, but it's pretty straightforward and laid out quite well. kind of walks you through the steps of gameplay. But there's a few things in here that I wanted to highlight. It's pretty typical and standard in terms of walking you through the steps, giving you examples, explaining how you play the game. But then once you get through the basic design and how the game plays, there's a little bit about the team who developed the game and how long they've been working on it. But then even beyond that, there's a lot of pages. So I don't know if you can tell here, I'm on page 6 of 29, and we've finished the rules. So the rules are 5 or 6 pages. But now there are 23 more pages of Q&A, frequently asked questions, and other information. So you can look at the undead, the humans, the orcs, the guardians. All of those have multiple pages of Q&A questions. So like, for instance, in the undead, if you have questions about the Dark Angel, there's information, questions and answers and explanations all the way through. I'll scroll down here past the other ones just to show you. Once you get through those 4 factions and looking at the Q&A for all those, then it gets into the unit groups. Which tribe is the strongest of them all? Well, in each of the different tribes or factions, you're going to have sorcerers who have special abilities. So you can see in every faction there's at least one sorcerer. You're going to have a siphon where you're going to take the tokens of other characters and put them under yours if you defeat them. So it's an interesting style of tactical battle. And then you've got helpers, which you can use either to then move and then attack, or you can move and then use their special ability. So, and we used all of these. We played with all the different factions. I will say I found the Necromancer might be a bit overpowered if the other player doesn't know that they need to try to eliminate it ASAP. Then there's the Titans. Every group has their own Titan, which is a strong, forceful character in the world. Then each group has a flying dragon. And then down here at the bottom, it gets into dice rules and explaining some clarifications on how you should handle different dice rules. And then, again, a link here. If you're not still clear on the rules, you can reach out to them through their website or through their email. All right, let's start taking a look at the game. And I'm going to start off with components and packaging. Very unique design choices here with this. There is no box. You just get these cardboard pieces. But everything for each faction, each tribe is together. So if you look on the back, it's just got some basic information, some pictures of that particular tribe, links to their website and different things. But if you look at the front, there's a little thumb grip here. You can push this out. This is going to be basically the part of the game board that the red player will contribute, and you align them depending on player count, which I'll show you here in a minute. And there's little gaps or little holes. I don't know if you can really see. Yeah, I might be able to see a little bit better here. There's a little hole here and a little hole here. That's where you're going to be putting the castles. And so right underneath that part, which becomes the game board, you've got the coins. You all have up to 6 coins, but you'll start with 5. And these just all pop out. And so you'd start off having 1 upside down and 5 ready to use. And you're also going to start with a wooden city, and you're going to put that down here in the bottom corner. So it just kind of stands in there 3-dimensionally, which is kind of cool. And you have 2 wooden cities, you have 2 metal cities, and you have 2 gold cities. And then you have all these tribes which are sort of lower level and then medium level and then higher level to match the wood, metal, and golden cities. And then within the packaging, you also have these dice, and they're just pushed into a little foam holder that keeps them there. So I've never seen a board game kind of take this strategy of not really having any external packaging, but having everything connected there, and almost like an advent calendar, pieces that just pop out. So if I want to use this character, I just pop it out. If I want to upgrade my wood city to a metal city, I just pop this out and do that. And they're 2-sided, so for instance, if I wanted to put out this character onto the board, I can flip it over and see, oh, that's the soul collector, and this is how much it's going to cost. But this is its strength. I'm going to have a strength of 5 and get to roll 2 dice when I attack, and I can move 5 spaces with this. So there's some information on the front and the back. So it's an interesting design, and I can see how this makes it very modular in the sense that they could easily add more tribes or factions in the future with their own characters, and you would just keep adding it together. The cons of this are, I have already started to see, and I've had them for a few weeks now and played them several times, but several of them are starting to warp a little bit. And for instance, these pieces, they stay pretty nicely in there. They're pretty snug. But this board piece for all of them easily falls out. It doesn't stay snugly anymore. So if I tip it over, it just is going to fall out. So a really clever design on one hand, and it's nice and compact and very modular. But like I said, I do think it's with the warping and the looseness of this main board here, that could become an issue if you're just not careful. So just something to be aware of. I don't think it's I don't think it's a big concern, but something that before you make a decision on whether you want to invest in that, you may want to know. So let's go ahead and set this up for a 2, 3, and 4 player game just to show you how that's going to look on the table. All right, so if you were going to set it up for a 2-player game and say you wanted to play the humans versus the undead, you would set them up this way. Now on the board, there are 2 city locations, and each player would start with their wooden city placed right into this spot. So I put those out and just put them into the little slots there. Each player is going to have their dice ready, and then they've got all their troops and the armory ready, and their new buildings or cities ready to put out as well. On each map, they have the same layout, and in one corner you've got a city, and in the middle you've got a city, and in this corner you've got a portal, which can jump to the portal over here. And then you've also got a gold spot on the corners here, and then a strength spot on the corners there. If you ever have one of your troops on the gold spot when you take income, that gives you 1 extra gold of income for each one you're on top of. So if you manage to get troops on both of these spots, you would have 2 extra gold during your income. I'll talk to you more about income in a minute. If you have troops on top of these when you do battle, whether you're defending or whether you're attacking, this is going to give you 1 extra strength. So if you're on one of them, you get 1 extra strength. If you manage to get troops on both of them, you would have 2 extra strength. And so this is kind of the basic setup. Now, if you wanted to do a 3rd player, let's say we wanted to add in the orcs. So we would obviously get their dice out, and then we line this up this way so that this road matches. This road goes into the strength, this road goes into the gold, and now we have 3. The orcs would then also put their little wooden city down here in the corner and be ready to go. If you're going to do 4, then you line it up like this. So that all the roads line up and you can move around, and all 4 players could be attacking and defending and moving around as they see fit. Basically, the overall premise of the game is to be the last person standing. You eliminate the characters, eliminate the different troops of all the people that you're battling against. Now, I don't have the ability to play with young children right now because my grandchildren don't live close by, and I don't really know any families that I feel close enough to know their children well. So my wife and I have just played this 2-player, and so we've always played it with this setup. Now, I'm not going to go through a full rules teach, but I just want to give you a feeling for basically the flow of the game. Each time it's your turn, you're going to take income, and your income is going to be based on a few things. So at the beginning, you both are going to start off with 5 gold, so that's all you have, and then you got your wood city. Now, on the cities, you see this little symbol. This is telling me when I take income, other than the first round, this is worth 1 gold. But if I can upgrade that to a metal city, I'm going to get 2 gold. And then if I upgrade that to a gold city, I'm going to get 3 gold during my income. And then as mentioned, if you have a troop on top of these spots, you're going to get additional gold for that. So first, you would take income other than the first round. You start with 5 otherwise. After you've taken income, then you're going to do usually deploying of your troops. So let's say that I'm playing the undead. I'm on this side of the board. I would probably say, well, let's see. I want to get some movement here. Maybe I'll take my acid spitter. And if I look at this acid spitter, I can see it's got a strength of 1, and I'm going to roll 1 die. It's got a range of 2, which means it can both attack and defend with range, and it can move up to 3 spaces based on this little 3-foot. And it's just going to cost me 1 coin. So I would just flip this coin over, and I'm going to put this acid spitter out here in this one city. It's the only city I have right now. So I've deployed it. And then I could, for the acid spitter, say I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and move them right along that path. Now, you can move them anywhere along the path except for where there's water, unless they're a character that actually can swim. So I could do 1, 2, 3. I don't have to follow the paths, but you can only move diagonally if you follow a path. So I could go 1, 2, 3 straight, that's fine. But if I want to go 1 and then move diagonally, there has to be a diagonal path. So you can always follow the paths. You can always go orthogonally straight or left and right. But you can't cross water unless your character has that. You can also never be in a spot with another character, and you also cannot pass through the spot of another character unless your character has the ability to fly, like some of these dragons do. Where's my dragon here? Here we go. And so, yeah, these flying dragons, Skull Dragon gives 1 basic strength to all the units and himself. Flies over water and units. So there's little information here on the back for each one. All right, so let's say I'm starting my first turn. I spent 1 to deploy this acid spitter, and I went ahead and moved him. Now, every character that's on the board only can move and then either attack or defend once per turn. Now, there's no one for me to attack or defend because I'm the first player. But now let's say I decide, well, I'm going to go ahead and deploy a building, and I'm going to build a metal building. So if I flip this over, it's the same on both sides, but I can see it's going to cost me these 2 metal coins. So now I'm going to have a 2 building, and I put that out and spend those 2 coins. Now what that's going to do is give me an ability to have more income. And maybe I decide, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and upgrade this one too. I've got 2 more coins. So I'm going to flip these 2. I'm going to put this wooden one back, and I'm going to upgrade this metal one here, or the wooden one here, to a metal one. So anytime you put a wood building out, you don't have to pay for it, but it does give you income. Now at that point, I've spent all my money, and so I don't have any money to build or deploy anything, and there's no one for me to attack. And then the next character would take their turn. The next player would take their turn, and they would have their 5 coins. They would be able to deploy, they'd be able to build or upgrade, and they would be able to potentially then attack or defend if they were attacked. Now, the way the attack and defend works, let's say we've played a few rounds and we've got some characters out here. We'll put this one out here, and we'll put them there on this spot that says they've got a +1 strength. Let's say my acid spitter was up here to get on there for the gold, and let's say that maybe I brought out this Dracula, and let's bring out something here with range. So let's take this little catapult kind of thing here. It's got a range of 4. So let's say that it's my turn as the undead, and I've got this scenario right here, and I decide I've moved and everything, and I just want to attack. So if I say I want to do an attack, I could say I'm just going to attack the spitter here against this character, and I could just do a one-on-one attack, or I could do an ambush attack and attack with both if they are able to. Now, this one has range and this one doesn't. So if I were in this arrangement, this one could attack there fine, but this one can't. Now if I had it the other way around, now this one is adjacent and it can attack, and this one has a range of 2, so it can attack. And so I could do an ambush attack against that. Now the way that I would do an ambush attack is I look and see, okay, well, this one has a strength of 1 and 1 die. This one has a strength of 4 and 2 die. So I'm going to take these 3 dice and I'm going to roll them. And now I've got a 4 plus a 1 is 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I've got an attack of 9 against this character. Now they have a strength of 5 and 2 dice, but this person also has range with no strength but 1 die. So now this character has to decide, okay, am I going to, and actually they have to decide before we roll, but they could decide, am I going to try to use this in my defense, or am I going to try to withstand the attack with just my 1 character? If they decide to use the range defense, they would take 2 dice for that character, 1 for that. And again, this has 0 strength and 5, but they do get to roll 3 dice, which is going to help them compared to here. Because I had a 5 strength with 3 dice. Now they've got a 5 strength with 3 dice, which should make it pretty, hopefully, balanced. So they can roll. They've got 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 5 is 11. Well, over here we only had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I attacked with 2, and I failed. So I'm going to have to lose this character because he is attacking right next to him and did not succeed. And because this one has range, I'm also going to lose this one. If this one hadn't been involved in the attack, well, I guess they probably couldn't be there on the water. Maybe we should put him over here. But if this one hadn't been involved in the attack with range, this one wouldn't have, they lost the battle, but this one wouldn't be removed. So there's a few little interesting wrinkles and thinking about range both on the attack and the defense you have to think about. And not to mention that when we were thinking through the attack strength or defense strength, this one also has that +1 there. So they easily won with a total of 12 compared to only the 9 from the attack. So that would have been a bad outcome for the undead and a very fortunate outcome for the humans. So again, you're going to be moving your characters around, possibly jumping from portal to portal. You're going to be flying with certain characters over other characters, moving through the water with certain characters have that special ability. trying to coordinate your attack and defense so that you can get all of the other players' troops off the board. You can also take over their cities. So let's say that it was the blue person's turn, blue player's turn. They could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are in this city. And now they could attack this city. Now this city has 2 dice on the top, so they have a 2 dice defense. And this character has a 5 strength with 2 dice attack. Now, I could also, with this character, do a 1-2 move, and they're a range of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could do an attack on the city from range and from right in person. And I could roll the dice. You do it the same way, and I could roll 2 dice for the defense. If I had some other characters near or in this city to defend it, the rules would be the same. If they were ranged, they could be away from the city. If they were in the city, then this person actually couldn't be there. They would have to just be beside it. So if you take over someone's city, if you are in that spot, they're going to remove theirs from the board, and you're going to be able to put your wooden city out in its place. If it had been a little bit of a different arrangement, if I had been with this kind of arrangement where we have to attack from range with this one, because you have to have range if you're not right there in front. But if I attacked with this one and defeated it, then they would have to remove it, but I would not be able to put mine in because I'm not in the city itself. So there's a couple little rules like that that you have to make sure you understand too in terms of taking over the cities. But that's the basic idea. It's a fairly straightforward move. You take your income, deploy your troops, move, attack, and then if you're on the other end, defend. Then when it's your turn, take your income, deploy your units, upgrade your buildings if you want, move, attack, and then they're going to defend. And you just keep going back and forth until one player has been able to remove all of the character troops of the other player. And that's how you win in Zaberias. So let me give you some concluding thoughts. What did I enjoy about the game? What are some pros and cons that might help you decide if this is a game for you? So as I mentioned, we just played this 2-player, so I can't really comment on 3 and 4. If I had some kids living closer that I could play games with, it might be interesting to try that. Next time I visit with my grandkids, I'll try to take this with me and get a chance to hopefully play with them. I think that most children, if they're old enough to understand the game, and there's not a huge overhead of rules, I think there's a few little things you might have to help them with, like when you're in range and when you're not, and how you can beat a city and how you upgrade, but most of it's pretty straightforward. So, you know, I think with an adult's help, they could pick up on it pretty quickly. I don't know that I would, like my wife and I played it so we could try it, and we played it a handful of times, but I don't know this is really a game that we would want to come back to for a couple of reasons. One is we're just really not into head-to-head battling games, and 2, this is built more for children. And so like I would say middle elementary to middle school is probably the range that would enjoy it the most. So I don't really see it as a game that my wife and I would come back to much, but I do see it as a game we would potentially play with our grandchildren. And so that kind of maybe helps you understand, unless you really like head-to-head tactical games and you like to keep it simple and straightforward, maybe it would be for you whether you're younger or older. It's not necessarily that it has to be for younger people, but just for my wife and I, for our particular gaming taste, it just doesn't necessarily fit with what we generally prefer. So just so you can think through that to see what are your preferences, what do you like the most. The other thing that I would say is that you have to be okay with player elimination, because you're going to go until one player's characters have been removed from the board. And so if you are playing with 3 and 4, you might have some players out of the game sitting and watching for a while. So that can be something that players may or may not enjoy. I would say too, for the graphic design on these tokens, the one side gives you a nice bit of information about strength and movement, which is what you need most of the time, and the other side tells you the cost. So you can't actually see the cost of these unless you flip them over. Now they are arranged in the board in an organized way that makes sense. So you can know like these are going to be, you know, lower price and the middle row is going to be higher price, and so it's not too hard to, you know, kind of predict. We can maybe look at the Guardians here. It's not too hard to predict, you know, these are going to be 1 or 2 coins, and these are going to be usually 2, 3, or 4, and then these are going to be 4 and 5, I think. So if I remember right, that's 5, and this one is also 5. So, and then the buildings, you know, these you can put out for free, but they give you 1 income. These you have to pay 2, and they give you 2 income, and these you have to pay 3 to get out, and they give you 3 income. And so, and you have to upgrade to put them out onto the board. So while you do have to flip them over and see what the cost is, you know roughly what it's going to be. So you're not going to be, if you know you only have one coin, there's no reason for you to be looking in the second or third row. So that does help. But there's a few things with graphic design that take a little getting used to, just figuring out where you need to look to find the different things. Like I said, I've noticed that these boards are warping quite a bit, and I don't know if that's unique to where I live in California, but you can see this one's kind of got a pretty good bend to it in a couple directions, so it does not sit flat on the table anymore, and some of these pieces don't sit as snugly anymore. It seems to be the only one that's really doing that significantly. For all of them, this part seems to be warping just a bit, the board itself, so you can see there's got like a little bit of a twist to that. But for this one, this is kind of the only one where the whole thing is kind of warping. Again, I don't know if that's the weather here in California, if that's making a difference. It does not make it unplayable by any means, but it is something to take in consideration, whether that's something that would bother you or not. So a few things just to think about, you know, difficulty level. You've seen a little bit about the basic flow of the game. I do think that as they add more, if they choose to add more characters, and as they potentially bring out 3D miniatures, that might, you know, sort of up the interest level for some kids where they may initially look at this. The art's really good and cute. I think they might enjoy trying the Guardians and the Undead and things, but yeah, I think with miniatures that might even raise the bar a little bit. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. Maybe log in and or go to their website and subscribe to the newsletter so you can see if that's something that you want to follow and maybe take into consideration in the future. So those are some brief thoughts and a look at the website, a look at the basic game flow and what the game is composed of at this point. I do think if you have children that love head-to-head battle games, then this might be a game for you to try out. Like I said, it's got potential for growth in the future, and so stay tuned to Zaberias, their website, so you can follow along and find out when and if they do add those three-dimensional miniatures and when and if they add more factions. So I hope this was helpful for you to get a basic feel for the game, look at a bit about how it's designed, check out the website, and if this looks like a game that is interesting to you, then click that link down below and go ahead and get your copy today. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you did, if you have any questions, leave questions in the comment section below. If you did enjoy it, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up, and it'd be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. As always, this is Billy, Indiana, signing off.